Hello, fellow duelists. This is Shadow of the Moon, and welcome to another deck profile. And this deck profile is going to be on the Harpie Lady deck for February of 2025. So, what better way to celebrate the month of Valentine's Day than with my Valentine herself? So, this deck is a lot of fun. It's a Harpy deck. It's mainly focused on stalling. This deck is not, you're not going to see this deck, at a regionals or YCS and all that stuff. But this deck is a lot of fun to play. And I just want to say that I do have a lot of fun with the deck. I wish we got more support, but unfortunately we have what we have. But I feel like I have made this deck as semi-competitive as possible. So I do, take that as a grain of salt, but I did the best I could with this deck, and actually it runs pretty well, and I really do enjoy it. So without any further ado, let's go head on into the deck profile. So obviously the first thing you're going to have is 3 copies of Harpie Lady. This is the standard card of the deck. Unexpected Die makes it to where you can special summon a level 4 normal monster, which is in this deck, which means you'll be special summoning her. She is a level 4, and most of this deck is going to be level 4. You could have like Harpie Lady 1, or you could have Cyber Harpy, but Harpie Lady, the vanilla, is probably the best one. And then I wanted to bust out the green lettered Chandlers. These are Harpy Chandler. This card is probably the best card in the deck. When this card is summoned and everything, you can discard a Harpy card to special summon a Harpy monster from your deck in defense position. So it'll either be, you can either special summon Harpy Perfumer, Harpy Lady, or if you want, you can special summon Harpy's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast. And if you special summon Pet Dragon, it'll make this card level 7, meaning you'll be able to go into your exceed rank 7 plays. And this card is just probably one of the best cards in the deck. And not only that, but this card is going to be 2. You got 3 copies of Harpy Perfumer. Harpy Perfumer is really, really good because when this card is a normal special summon, you can add a card from your hand that mentions Harpy Lady's sister, so you'll be able to grab that Elegant Egotist. And if you control a level 5 or higher Harpy monster, you'll be able to add another card. So that works really well with this deck. And this is probably one of the best, also one of the best cards in this deck. All right. Next, we are going to be playing Harpy Oracle. You've got 2 copies of Harpy Oracle. Harpy Oracle, if you control a level 5 or higher monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and this card will also allow you to add Elegant Egotist from your graveyard back to your hand, which really help you and you're going into your plays. Harpy Oracle is pretty good. If you wanted to cut this to 1, you could, but I find that 2 is very consistent and actually works really well with the deck. And then speaking of 2 more, you've got your 2 Harpy's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast. This card is great. If you control a Harpy monster, this card can be special summoned from your hand. And when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, except for if you're, using it for exceed material and then you're detaching material, you can actually dump a Harpy card or wind monster from your deck to the graveyard, which you're going to be dumping Harpy Harpist, which Harpy Harpist will then, at the end phase of the turn, allow you to add a Harpy monster from your deck to your hand, which works really well as well. And then you've got 1 copy of Harpy Queen, which is a good discard search for Harpy's Hunting Ground. 1 copy of Harpy Harpist. So Harpy Harpist will, when it's sent into the graveyard at the end phase of the turn, this will allow you to get a level 4 winged beast type monster from your deck and add it to your hand, so it gives you more fuel. And then that's going to be it for the Harpy cards. As you can see, there's only 15 Harpy monsters in this deck. This deck searches and is so functional that you do not need probably any more than the 15 or 16 if you wanted to have 16. It works really well with the deck. So now let's move on to the spells and traps. We've got 3 Elegant Egotist. Elegant Egotist, when this card is activated, it's got 2 effects. So when this card first off is activated, you can add an Elegant Egotist from your deck to your hand, which is incredible. Also, if this card is set, or if this card is destroyed, not on the same turn that used the first effect, you can actually add 3 Harpy cards from your deck to your hand, meaning you can add you can add your Harpy's Feather Storm, which is probably which is the best card in this deck. So this card comes in clutch really, really well. And then you've got 3, obviously, Elegant Egotist. Some players play this at 2. I like it at 3 because I think 3 is the best for, consistency reasons. This allows you to special summon Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters from your hand deck. So this works really well. And then for the 1 of Harpy cards, you've got your Harpy's Feather Duster, you've got your Harpy's Returnal Rest, and you've got your Harpy's Hunting Ground. So obviously Feather Storm, is going to be your back row destroyer. Harpy Feather Rest, how this works is you shuffle 3 Harpy cards with different names from your graveyard, add them back to your deck, and then draw a card. And if you control a level 5 or higher Harpy monster, you can actually add a second card. You can draw 2 cards, so that works really well. And then Harpy Hunting Ground allows you to pop cards on the field, but do keep in mind that if you do not have anything on the field, this is an mandatory effect. It will destroy Harpy's Hunting Ground, so just keep that in mind when you're playing it, that you don't have anything for you to pop unless you have Hysteric Sign. And then for the other cards, 3 Small World. How this works is 3 Small World will allow you to access any Harpy card in the deck. All you have to do is banish a Harpy card face down, and then the card that you're selecting for the bridge is going to be Fearsome Fire Blast, and then from there you can add any of the other Harpy cards from your deck and add them to your hand, or Harpy monsters. So that works really well. This card is clutch. I was going to put Pot of Prosperity in here, but I realized that Pot of Prosperity isn't really mandatory in this deck because it searches so well anyways. And then you have 2 Unexpected Die for your regular Harpy Lady 1, or Harpy card, the normal one. And then for the other last one, you've got Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave works really well. If you felt like taking this out, you could. I just do this in here because it's more of an interruption, and it does counter some cards. All right, so that's going to be it for the main spells and traps. Now let's move on to the traps. So obviously you're going to be having 2 Hysteric Party. To be honest, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm not really the biggest fan of Hysteric Party Virgo per se, because like I never really use it. I see a lot of players always playing 2, so I will play 2 for that sake. But at the same time, I really don't know maybe why it's so good, because yeah, I know that you can special summon a bunch of monsters on the board, but it is situational because you have to discard a card, and your opponent obviously by the next turn is going to have somewhat of a board, so that they're going to be able to pop it and destroy it. But I do know that it's a good card because you can also use it for Exceed material and whatnot, and it works really well with apparently Hysteric Sign. So yeah, I mean, it's a good card. I just have never really used it that often. And then for the hand traps, we are running 9 hand traps in here, so a total of 10 hand traps and interruptions, which is not bad for this deck. Obviously, 3 Ash Blossoms, 3 Infinite Imperms, and coup de grace, the Harpy's Feather Storm. So obviously, these cards are the main hand traps of the deck, Harpy's Feather Storm being probably one of the best ones. So yeah, I mean, I think they're really good. I like the choices. I mean, I would love to be able to add other things, but it's really hard to max out this deck because this deck is already really tight in terms of the set. So yeah. All right, so now we're going to move on to Cyber Slash Harpie Lady. This is going to be for the extra deck. You've got 2 Cyber Slash Harpie Lady, 1 Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, and 1 Harpy Conductor. So these are your Harpy targets. Cyber Slash is great because it allows you to bounce a card back from your opponent's side of the field when they activate a spell, trap, or effect, and you control Harpy cards. You can also bounce either this card back, a Harpy card you have, or one of their cards. So it's a great disruption. So it's probably one of the best. And then for the other ones, we have Zeus, and we have Typhon Crisis. These are in here for Zeus is actually easy to use. So I'm going to explain how you can use Zeus. So for Zeus, if you have Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, it's your turn, it's the second turn, and you attack with Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, they can't really like target it or destroy it and stuff. So if it successfully attacks, main phase 2 at the end, you can summon this on top of it, and it makes it a 4 material monster, so you can activate its effect twice. So it's actually pretty nifty. And Typhon Crisis to kind of stop your opponent. This is kind of like your last ditch effort. And then for the other rank 7s, we've got Big Eye, which steals your opponent's monster, and Draco Sack, which obviously is there for the tokens. Works really well. And then for the other ones, we're going to be having Baguska. Baguska is probably like one of the better cards in here because this kind of locks your opponent and they can't activate monster effects that are on the field. Also can't activate your own, but this card is really useful for that reason. That's why it's in here. You have Lightning Chidori, which is good. You've got Abyss Dweller, which is actually pretty good. And then that's going to be it for the Exceed monsters. Then you're going to have the Link. So you've got IHP Masquerena, SP Little Knight, Unicorn, and Crusadia Max. So you could use Access Code Talker if you wanted to. I prefer Mech Knight Crusadia Max effect because of what his effect is, because of what he has. But you also can use it for IP, Little Knight, and Unicorn, which really helps with the deck. So, all right, so that's going to be it for this deck. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said before, this deck is not competitive at all. This is just a fun pet deck that I have, and I love Harpies. I've always loved the Harpy archetype. And just sadly, you don't see it that often, obviously being played because there hasn't been any support. But you can combine this with other archetypes like Primite and Primite and not what card I'm thinking. Oh, Tri Brigade. But I prefer just to use it like this because it's fun. If you're looking for a Harpy player that actually is really dedicated, Harpy Player Joe, go to his channel, Harpy Player Joe HPJ, and he's been a dedicated Harpy player for the past about 13 years that he's been on YouTube. He says he's been on here for 15, but he's had videos for 13 years at least, and they're all Harpy related. He also plays different formats like hat format, Go, and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of cool. If you're interested in learning more about Harpies, that is definitely a channel for you to go visit because he is a lot more of an avid Harpy player. But I love Harpy, so that's why I still have this deck. So, all right, that's going to be it for this deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And with that, see you guys next time. Later.